We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone, she did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you.
It was February 2021, and things were only getting worse in the small city of Torino, Italy. The whispering of a novel virus was taking over the land. Nicolene Santomartino is a mom of 2 boys, ages 18 months and 7 years old. She's a school leader with 10 teachers and 65 families. She holds great responsibility for the many people in her care. Many people remember Italy as being the largest hot zone with just absolute chaos. Nicolene takes us into those beginning moments of what she was feeling during that time.
Initially, for me, it was actually quite this can't be true type of reaction. In Italy in general, people blow things up a lot, especially the media. So initially it was at the end of February, and I remember they said that they were going to close schools and everything for a week, and I got my staff in that week, and we worked on making the school cleaner and better and getting everything. I was quite in denial of what was really happening, even though paying attention to everything that was, that the news was saying. I just didn't know exactly how much to believe at the time. So for my family, my son, my 7-year-old son, he is asthmatic. And I've known that there were breathing complications. Both my husband and I were quite concerned about this. And so I started reading up a lot more about what COVID is and how you get it and the impacts of it, and being a lot more cautious on a health level. That was my biggest concern.
From this distance of where we are now, we can discern some of the characteristics and moves that each of these leaders took to take on this great crisis. Now we can look back and see a bright future. But the reality back then was very different. As parents' fears intensified, many of them living with elderly parents and other members who were immunocompromised, the challenges became insurmountable. Not only were leaders dealing with a deadly virus, but they were trying to desperately keep their doors open of their school. They were also up against people's greatest fears and anxieties and trying their hardest to minimize trauma. People were choosing between, do I do this or I do that? There were so many choices to make. The school leaders who led during this season are heroes. And if you're listening right now, you're a hero. You survived that season. So let's go back to where Nicolene dug deep within herself to find the strength and resilience to persevere.
So my school is a school that I took over from the founder, and she kind of made me promise that I'll do my best to look after her baby. So I forever live with this promise that I made to her, and I want to uphold it because I'm always a person of my word. And like you mentioned, there was the time where I was a bit more concerned, a bit more worried, and I thought I had to reflect about closing or not closing. And then I just thought, look, if you don't give 200% in doing your best to keep the school running. You're never going to forgive yourself because you made a promise and you keep promises. And so we've got to look at what the options are to keep the promises that we've made. And that was the first part. And the second part was considering the amount of families that I am responsible for as an owner, the amount of people who depend on my salary that I pay them every month. And those two things drove me to find the strength and the courage to just go for it.
One of the hallmarks of great leadership is knowing where to get your information from and who will be your advisors and mentors during crisis. As there will always be conflicting information, especially during the beginning of the COVID season, everything kept changing. The leaders who rode through this made some initial decisions around who they were going to get information from, and then had the discipline to stick with it, not get sidetracked by the fear-mongering media. It wasn't helpful to their schools, it wasn't helpful to their livelihood or their mental health to watch the panic and hysteria.
So I decided on seeing which were the most valid resources that I had. So official numbers on, for example, Worldometer, where I saw the actual numbers. And I followed the government sites and only the information that came directly from the government or from the health institution was the information that I followed. I found that a lot of people went into panic because we read that the lockdown is going to be extended. We read that this is going to happen. We read that that's going to happen. And I decided to have an attitude of, until such time that the official websites or the official communication doesn't come out, I'm not going to panic. We're handling the situation in this way, and we'll go ahead with it this way. Until such time as we have different news. And that was the only thing that really helped, to keep a square mind about it.
The American people and many countries around the world got to, quote unquote, enjoy a quiet period over the summer, where cases were lower. But then Italy had news of the impending new lockdown again.
After the summer, when we came back, the first month or so was all calm and quiet. And then all of a sudden, I started getting parents acting in very aggressive manners. One morning, a mother verbally attacked one of my teachers because she wouldn't accept her son because he had had a fever the day before. And so I started seeing this pattern of people acting very forcefully strongly about what they want. Then the really big alarms came on when I had a situation where parents were fighting in the parking because of someone parking funny, or they just became very angry and more aggressive, and it just started making me think about what was actually going on. And it came on like an extreme light that was just a spotlight that focused on it when we actually spoke about it. And when I spoke to you in one of our support calls about it, and you said to me, what's happening on the media? I hadn't even realized, because I wasn't following. Like I said before, I chose my channels, and those were the only channels that I followed. But I had started hearing the staff saying, they're saying that they're going to lock us down again. And what are we going to do? And at least now we can work. But what if we can't work anymore? And how are we going to handle the mental health situation about being at home? And I just kept on saying to them, but there's none of that on the official sites. And then when in our conversation, you mentioned what's happening in the media, it was like a spotlight shone on it. And I just realized that actually this is panic. it's not anything else except for panic. People are reacting the way they are because they're terrified of being closed in their homes again and having to work from home with their children and for their health in general. So that was definitely a big eye opener.
Just knowing how to navigate these difficult conversations with teachers about accountability, about coming on time, about just some of the daily operations that were becoming a struggle because of what everyone was dealing with, and because you wanted to come with more of a component of empathy and compassion. I know that you leaned heavily on the group of the owners, who really gave a tremendous amount of support. And I'd love for you to share more about what did support really look like for you during that season, and why did having a community of leaders make it easier for you to be carried through this season?
So I think the main thing was that in the group, I felt extremely safe. Like I could say what I was doing and I could receive objective criticism that would help to better what I was doing, but nobody in the group is scared to share what they're actually doing. And it's so special to have a place where you can go to where you feel safe, because it's not to have a place where it's not a dog eat dog world, where we're not afraid of sharing what we've got because someone else is going to try and run me out of business, or because someone else is going to try and steal my clients. um, and and that's what I really found in the group was the biggest thing that helped me. And then, of course, the lightheartedness of some situations, where things were really just the drama was taken out of it, and they're like, I even can't remember what I'm supposed to be doing. I can understand how you're feeling, type of thing. And it just really, really helped, having the resources and the help. And even though I'm in a completely different country and things don't always work the same here, at least I could nitpick at what information I had to help me go ahead with what I had. And I hope that I could help likewise, with the information that I have. It's not always, it being in a different country, it's always very difficult, but it's a different cultural perspective, and it helps a lot in general. So it just having that support was really what pulled me through, especially with the second wave.
I want to introduce you to one of our owners who started in our Directors Inner Circle, moved through our Owners HQ, and is now in our CEO Legacy Group. She started with us in 2018 and has seen massive growth in her company and organization and the way that she has developed an accountable culture. I want you to meet Missy Griffin as she shares the impact that accountability has had on her school.
In my head, I always think WWCD, which is what would Connie do? Because I always think I'm going to have to, there's so much accountability with this program when you're in the inner circle, like where we have to, on Fridays, tell you what a win was and a loss or something we're struggling with. And you have to be accountable for what you're doing to this group of women. So that helps. And then also just always having in my mind that I'm here to take care of my teachers so my teachers can take care of the kids. So that rings in my head constantly.
If you want more information on our Directors Inner Circle or our other memberships for early childhood leaders, you can go to hani.me/join the DIC or click the links in the show notes. All right, let's get back to our show. When I think about, when you first joined the group, you joined during COVID. It's not like you've been part of this group, from this pre-era. And I've seen such a transformation in just how you articulate, how you show up, how you ask questions, how you believe in yourself, and how you believe you deserve to lead, to be in this position. I feel like you're no longer this imposter of like, do I belong here? Am I worthy of this role? Like, I really feel like you own who you are and how you show up. And so I'd love for you to share with the people that are listening, like, when you think of that transition of believing that you deserve to be in that position, how did that really save yourself and the company from going under? Because so many schools didn't make it and you're still standing. So why are you still standing?
Well, I think mainly when we doubt ourselves, we definitely transmit an extreme insecurity. And how can you expect somebody to buy into what you're selling if you're not even sure what you're selling? It's just it, and I've made a really big transition in setting boundaries, in knowing when to listen, in knowing what type of information to take out of, even out of the worst complaints, even out of people screaming their heads off at me. And just to maintain a very calm approach to it. I mean, I had a funny type of criticism that happened. It was in about October. All the other schools in town had various cases in their school, and I had a parent come to me and say, like, why is it that at Cucciolo we haven't had any COVID cases? And I could have taken that in two different ways.
The skill of leading difficult conversations and also learning how to interrupt the process of feedback is a foundational skill in your leadership journey. The reason I say skill is because this is not talent. Knowing how to lead difficult conversation and discern when to be quiet, when to speak up, what to do is 100% teachable. It is learnable if you want to. If you want to. We actually have a template for leading difficult conversations in the show notes. Through Nicolene's time in the Owners Only program, she developed a strong internal skill for processing feedback from parents. She shares an anecdote that is very telling to how she has grown in herself throughout her journey of getting support in her role.
The first being, I could have taken it as a criticism where I am being accused of hiding things. So my communication not being enough there, I'm hiding that somebody was sick, like a very bitter, ugly way, okay? Especially with a parent that it came from who often has this type of questioning, okay, where you don't quite understand whether she is just questioning for the knowing of what's happening, or whether she is questioning because actually she thinks that you're doing things not correctly. Or I could take it as a huge compliment because we're definitely doing our work as well as we possibly can. And actually, I decided to take the compliment and say, look, up until now, for now, we haven't had any COVID cases, and I'd like to believe that it is because we work well, we stick to protocol, and we stay outside a lot.
As a leader, your job is to take care of the teachers so they can take care of the children. And as an owner, it's your job to take care of the directors so they can take care of the teachers, so they can take care of the children. The question is, who's taking care of you? Who is nurturing you? Who is nourishing your soul and reminding you of these important mindset shifts? As someone who leads many leaders, I take that responsibility very seriously. And so I decided to invite Dr. Sherry Walling, who's a clinical psychologist, to do multiple guest sessions with the leaders of our community, both with directors and in our owners group. Nicolene shares how these sessions have changed the trajectory of her leadership and the relationship that she has with both teachers and families.
First thing that jumps to mind is the suggestion that she made of protecting our hearts with having a cup in front of you, even if it's a cup that's empty. And I do that even with phone call conversations now, because it's just it just definitely being a a person who takes everything very personal. It definitely helped me to step aside from this big problem. For example, I today found out that two of my staff members, their sisters, they lost their mom yesterday, and something that is heartbreaking. I managed to navigate it without getting so heartbroken myself for them that I could sort out what the problems were for the school. And in that way, being human and empathetic, but also showing up for the rest of the team without failure. Um, so that definitely was one of the main things. And then our conversation about burnout. It just, you always think there's burnout, but that's not happening to me. I'm not living that. And he just kind of had this way of making us realize, or guiding us to realizing that even though we're strong leaders, and even though we are it's supposed to be this idea of never failing, always there and always ready, we do have a human side to us, and we do have a side that gets tired. And especially if you are in burnout and if you are tired, you can still function. You just need to self-care. And that was the main thing, because I just felt like, oh my goodness, if I'm in burnout, this is a disaster. The school's gonna have to close, because so I can't be in burnout. I can't allow myself to be down, or to be depressed, or to be anxious, or to be any of the frail words that we use to express what is happening during burnout. But I can decide to self-care and show up even though I'm in a full burnout. So those are a few of the things that definitely helped me a lot.
I love how you've really helped close a learning cycle for yourself, where you realize that as long as I continue to stockpile the pain of oh, I'm not allowed to feel anxious because I have to be there for everyone else. And in this dichotomy of thinking, as long as I don't allow myself to feel it, it means it's not coming out into my culture, which is so false, right? It's such there's no truth to that at all. But really accepting the truth of if I allow myself to feel this and then I take care of it, that's how I take care of the team better. Not ignoring it. It doesn't make it go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that also helped my team a lot, because I was very open about it with them. I spoke to them about it as a leader. We had a team building evening, and I shared with them the fact that I am also taking strain, that there are also things that are scary for me. And so just as there are things that are scary for me or that make me anxious, the same way they probably have things too. And that really helped them to start feeling safe enough to share what they feel like sharing, and to realize that self-care is important, and that they then went and decided, they kind of confronted with each other, I go to the gym, oh no, the gyms are closed, so I can't go to the gym. I'm usually a swimmer, but now I'm doing Pilates online, or and so they started sharing what was special for them as self-care. And I also realized that sometimes we don't all understand what self-care actually is. We all think that it is just going to the hair salon, having our hair done, or brushing our teeth in the morning, and those are actually just default things that we should be doing in a normal routine. And that's not taking the special time for yourself, which is so important.
I love that you gave your team the space and the language to have the conversation with each other, because the support that they could give one another is greater than anything that you can give them, because they're side by side, they link arms with one another. And so when one teacher tells the other one, instead of swimming, I'm doing Pilates, the teacher's like, oh, that's such a great idea. I could do that also. It's very different than when you tell them, oh, instead of swimming, you could do Pilates. It's just a completely different conversation. So what a gift you've given them to have that language and camaraderie with one another. COVID has taught all of us something. For every person, it's different. And I know that if you're listening to this show and you have a growth mindset, which means that you're committed to always learning something from any challenge, it's about rising with resilience. I once heard a great quote. If you don't learn something from every challenge or crisis, it's the equivalent of paying the toll and not being able to cross the bridge. You get stuck on one side. Nicolene has had tremendous internal growth that even her friends and people that are closest to her noticed her change.
So on a personal level, I definitely am extremely grateful for the time that the virus has given us to slow things down. I think that so many of us live such a frantic lifestyle, and this kind of forced us to just, to a certain extent, slow down. And if I don't take 10 calls on a Monday while I'm on holiday, the world is not going to end. Okay. So it's definitely, that is one of the big takeaways that I've personally had. I don't reply to emails at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore. I've only just stopped breastfeeding my youngest. He carried on for a lot longer than the older one, and so it was a little bit harder to stop. And so I was up a lot at night because he was a very frequent feeder. And so I used to spend the time that I was up, instead of bonding with my son or relaxing, I spent my time answering emails, doing programming, and with COVID, I was forced to not do that because there weren't all these emails to answer. Yeah, sure, there was a lot of other stuff happening. But a lot of the other stuff that was happening couldn't be handled at 3 o'clock in the morning. So why does that one email have to be handled at 3 o'clock in the morning? So on a personal level, I've learned to set those types of boundaries, which definitely has, even my friends have said to me, oh, I want to be more like Nicolene next year. That's quite exciting. And sometimes I don't even realize it myself, that I've grown like this. But when other people start saying to you, wow, you've really changed, you've really become, this aspect and that aspect of you is so much better, especially when it's from people who you love so much. It's really special. So I hope to carry on growing, seeing as this virus doesn't look like it's going away too soon. But it's definitely not all negative. We've got to focus on the positive side of it.
Everyone wants to ride with you in the limo, but what you want is someone who will take the bus with you when the limo breaks down. It's a very famous quote from Oprah, and I love that because this season has brought out the best and worst of our teaching teams. It has peeled back the onion of so much change and advocacy that's needed for early childhood. And what's interesting is how many leaders saw teachers who would usually not lend a hand, not do these things. Many of them saw people step up like never before.
Initially, seeing as we were forced to be closed, I got the team to come in, and we did some work on the outside, because our school has very big playground. And so we did a lot of work on that. And I saw within the time that we spent together, we did about 3 weeks of physical labor, which is not a teacher's job. So already having teachers wanting to come in just so that they can be together and just to build the team, that was already a very big step for me. And then the availability that I could see among them. For example, when we had 2 teachers positive with COVID, I stepped in myself, having been a teacher. I stepped in and sort of started taking over classes, but I couldn't do it all myself. And so the value of how you have people who previously would not step in, not even 1 minute extra, and then started stepping in and helping and pulling through together, was just amazing. And then the other part that I found amazing was people who weren't really empathetic before would notice, maybe if I was stressed, or if one of the colleagues was stressed, and are you okay? Like I know that we can't, we have a very loving culture among some of our staff members, and so they, even though we have masks and whatever all, and we're not supposed to touch each other, you'll have the 1 or 2 people who will go, hang on, I just need to disinfect myself, and then give you a hug. You just look like you need a hug. And that was just really special, to see that people they're not so caught up in themselves anymore, and they've grown. And so the availability of people in my team has just been amazing, and I just feel like we're a bunch of heroes showing up together. We're doing what many other people don't want to do. They show up every day. They do the hard work. They face the fact that the thermal scanners don't always work because it's too cold outside, and so put them under the arm and keep them up here and there, and try. There's even just the smallest stuff that is so much hard work, and so I've really seen them pull together instead of fighting against each other, which has been amazing to see.
As the year and the COVID crisis wore on in our minds and our souls, many leaders have stopped dreaming, thinking, what's the point? It's all gonna blow up anyways. And I get that. I put off planning for many months because it scared me. But right now, I want to invite you to dream again, to dream bigger dreams, to remember why you started this business, to remember why you chose this position of leadership and what you're really made of. What are those layers of connection and growth that you can bring to the team? I think your story is such a testament to the ripple effect, that when the leader really digs in and says, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to lead first, I'm going to work on myself, I'm going to do all the necessary steps that's needed for my team to grow, and not expect immediate results, but plant those seeds and wait to see what happens. And I guess in closing, I want to ask you, what's next for you? What's on the horizon now as you continue to navigate this challenging season, but dream big for 2021? What's next for Nicolene?
So one of the main things is that, as far as my school is concerned, I would love for the culture to pass through, the gratitude, the empathy and the kindness to pass through onto the parents. We've reached the children, I've reached the staff members, and we now really need to reach the parents. And so that's one of the main goals that I would have for my school. And then I would really like to open up a new center. I've been looking into it mainly being a center that has with government funding, and so making it available to not the top income bracket, but making it available to more to everybody, because I think that it's so important to be able to advocate for children, not only from well-off families, but especially for the not so well-off families, and give back to the world, because my school is based on outdoor education and having the nature as a center, and so I'd like that to, nowadays we need to, with global warming and all of the rest, we need to be working on that. And even if it's a very, very small impact, because definitely 100 children are not going to make a difference in the population in general. But even if just those 100 children can grow in that way, that would definitely be one of my biggest goals.
I love that. I love that. This story has taught us so much. Resilience, rising up again, and remembering that no matter how many times we fall, we can choose to have the courage to stand back up again. So now, Nicolene and I would love to hear from you guys. What did you learn from this story? What inspired you? Please come join us in our Facebook group, Schools of Excellence Lounge, where school owners and directors are hanging out. And Nicolene and I would love to collaborate with you on your biggest takeaways, your insights, and some questions that you still might have. Thanks so much, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it. If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.